welcome to Castles and Cryptids, where the castles are haunted and the cryptids are cryptic as fuck. I'm Alanna.
I'm Kelsey.
And today's episode 88. I just
Yeah.
realized. I got very excited. Well,
Woohoo!
as you now know, if you listened to last week's, the number 8 is pretty lucky
It
in
is.
Asian
Yeah.
culture. And that's, I don't know if I mentioned this, but maybe that's why I was born in 88 and it was the year of the dragon, and they consider
Hmm.
the year of the dragon pretty lucky, and now I
Yeah.
wonder if there's a correlation with it because it being 88. I don't
Probably.
know. I don't know. It's interesting. Do you know what your Chinese zodiac sign is?
Is it, is it the boar or the pig? I think it's
Were you born
the
in 95?
yeah. I
Right.
believe it's the boar. My mom and I have the same one.
Oh, that's cool.
Hmm.
Oops, I'll double check.
Yeah, I think it's the boar. Some places
The
call it the pig.
pig, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, the
Yeah.
pig, or sometimes translated as the boar. No,
I
just
know.
kidding. Pigs are my favorite, though.
They're very cute. They're little curly tails. Oh.
Yes, I actually love them. I usually say they're my second favorite animal because seals.
I love monkeys and
Cool.
sloths.
Oh,
So
sloths are very interesting.
they're fun.
They're
They
fun. They're funky. Don't they have lots of like I don't know, mosses and things growing in
yeah,
their
because
like
they move so slowly.
skin or fur? Yeah.
I would love to be I would love to like come back or be reincarnated as an animal that either gets to hibernate and sleep for months on end, uh, or a sloth. Because I feel like that's how I want to spend my days. Or a panda.
Oh my
Pandas seem
god.
pretty great. I'd love to be a panda in a zoo. Just
They're
like
just their general chubbiness does look very
and they roll
joyful.
around. They're just like yeah, so cute. That'd be fun. Yeah.
um what about, do you remember in the, okay, it was in the Magicians, the book series, the trilogy, but
Hmm.
probably maybe not the show, because I don't remember if they went on the big sea voyage in the show, and then they wanted to take one of the animal representatives on the voyage, and the only one that agreed to go was the sloth. So they stuck him down in
Ah,
the hold of the ship. um it's because he wasn't going to
Abigail.
bother anyone down there.
Abigail. Um
Yes, yes,
I
Abigail.
I think in the show they went on the voyage, but I don't remember the sloth going.
Probably not. It was a
Yeah.
pretty good show, though. I don't know if you guys have graduated on from the Harry Potter. It is the magical university.
Yeah. I still
Pardon me.
love like season 1 holds a very special place in my heart, and then
Yeah.
I feel like season 2 is like I like 50% as much, and then every like after that it kind of I don't know, more and more and I disliked it.
Yeah, I would say
But
it was one of those that veers off from the
yeah,
books a
a
bit
lot.
too. So then you're like, if you love the books, then you're trying to go, well, can I accept the show for what it is?
Yeah.
And that stuff too. So yeah, I could see that, but it's worth watching.
Mhm.
But anyway, what are you guys watching these days to get through the dullness of January?
Right?
I, I mean, you're listening to the right things, obviously.
Yeah. Listening to us.
Oh, and I always forget to say this because there's new people that could join anytime, any episode. If you're
Yeah.
new, welcome.
Right.
So you're in for some creepiness today, as usual. Probably some crypticness.
Yeah.
And clearly some television and or movie tangents.
Yeah, if you want some quick recommendations. I mean, uh, I watched Bullet Train.
Oh, that was good. We
Did you
just talked
guys,
about frickin' Knives Out in the last intro.
yeah, did you guys
Or
watch it on
the
Amazon
last.
too? Did you watch it on Amazon or did you guys?
Yeah, we didn't go to the theaters or anything like
Yeah.
that.
So
Yeah.
kind of ticked me off because every time they were speaking English, Amazon didn't have
Mm-hmm.
any subtitles. And I had previously downloaded that movie.
Oh.
And after I watched it on Amazon, I was like, I feel like I missed something for half this movie because there was quite a bit of dialogue like that's in other languages. And I go into my one that's downloaded that somebody
Okay.
did, and it has all the subtitles in it in all the languages. And I'm like, okay, I feel like I need to rewatch this movie and actually
Whoa.
understand all of the dialogue. So you're actually
So
supposed
do
to
you
know
think the
what they're talking
directors
about. I don't know. I think it's
hmm.
Amazon like dropped the ball on putting the subtitles in, but
That does happen sometimes though,
yeah,
doesn't it? Like, is that just me or doesn't it happen on occasion? You're like looking for the subtitles and then they're just not there and you're like, "Oh, I guess we're just supposed to
yeah,
be kind of in the dark here."
yeah. Because
That's
there's a
so
few times where
weird.
they intentionally, where for a few scenes, like you aren't supposed to know what they're saying in like a different
Yeah.
language.
I could see
But
that for a
that
few
I felt
scenes,
like
yeah.
there was just too much overall for that to be going on. Yeah. So when I was like done watching it, I started like Googling and then was like, I'm just gonna click through like towards the end of the one that I downloaded illegally. And I was like, oh, there's the subtitles. And I like rewatched one of the scenes. I was like, that makes a lot more sense now. And then I was like, kind of like, fuck you,
Huh.
Amazon. Like, why couldn't you put the subtitles in there?
I'm gonna literally have to ask Pat because he has a
Yeah.
much better memory when it comes to movies than I do.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't remember being super confused, but I also can't visibly remember if I could see the subtitles or not. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I couldn't. There was
Because,
no, like, there was subtitles for all the English parts. Like there was subtitles for all of that. But then there was no
all the
subtitles when they're
English.
yeah, when they're
Oh.
speaking English. Like there I
Okay, that's
believe there's
not normal,
subtitles for that.
though.
And then there was no subtitles when they're speaking in the other languages. It wasn't translated. So it was like,
Oh, that
wow.
seems like a weird glitch. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was disappointed in that because
Because you
I
don't get
like
the English
yeah.
subtitles unless someone has a thick accent. Like, for example, I was recently listening to the Bella's podcast, which is a couple of twins actually that
Mm.
were wrestlers,
Oh yeah.
and yeah, and so they had a little reality show that was like following them in their like personal life and stuff. It was a spin-off of like a bunch of the girl wrestlers or whatever, and one of the twins, her boyfriend is Russian, and he was like, oh, I started taking some speech stuff. He was like, I was really kind of disappointed to see that like I had subtitles because of my accent. And he's like, he has a
Oh.
Russian accent, but like I think, it's cute, and obviously I don't think it's that hard to understand. And he was like very self-conscious because they had given him subtitles when he was speaking English. I
Oh.
was like,
See,
oh,
most things when you click into subtitles, it'll do subtitles for everything, which I like, cause
right. But this one was like only doing it for him because he had a
yeah,
Russian
that's good.
accent, as if people couldn't possibly understand what he was saying. So
Wow, that's
like,
brutal.
right? You're like,
Jeez.
thanks, E Network or whatever. No, reality. Anyway, that's clearly my guilty reality show pleasure. But also, I've been watching a lot of the Great Canadian Bake Off.
Oh my
Don't
god,
at
yes.
me.
As soon as a season comes out of that show, I've watched it.
Really? I hadn't seen a lot of the back ones, so I'm like watching like season 2, and there's a girl from like just outside of the city here. She's from like
Yeah.
Leduc, and I'm like,
Almost
oh,
every
you're
season
amazing.
has one person that's either like from Edmonton, from Alberta, or from Calgary. Every season.
Yeah, I feel like
Yeah.
there's at least 2 from Alberta this season.
They're good. I love that
Hmm.
show. Like when
Okay, I
COVID
like this
stirs
season.
hit.
Dan Levy's
Yeah.
the host this season, or one of them, which is good
Yeah.
because a lot of the new hosts I didn't like as much. But I'm
Yeah.
ranting.
They
Yeah.
aren't quite as like funny, but they're okay. I
Yeah,
like the
kind of
people
annoying.
enough in it, and like the
Yeah.
people sharing like family recipes, and I don't know,
Yeah,
I lay
like
on my couch and I go look at their beautiful like tarts and mini cakes, and I'm just like, "Oh, those
so
look so
crazy.
beautiful." It's my feel good show. When I
Yes.
was sick and everything, like the last 2 times I've been really, really sick is like the times they released a new season, so I just laid on my couch for
Oh,
like 10
really?
hours straight and was like, "Great Canadian Baking Show." It
I
was
think
like,
it's a
"What?"
lot of people's guilty pleasure. I listened to
Yeah.
another podcast where they like talk about watching like the I think it's more like maybe the Great British Bake Off, but like I
Yeah.
know that people watch these things. They do.
There's one where they have like celebrity comedians that come on that are trying to bake, and then if they win,
Oh.
they almost always like donate the money to charity or something.
Yeah, okay, I've seen a
It has
couple
a
one-offs and stuff.
yeah, it has like a similar kind of name to the Great Canadian. Is it Great British Bake Off or something? The
That is
show
another
is.
one. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
Damn.
so cute.
Quality
I don't know. I
reality
just like
shows.
it. It's like watching Nailed It, and they're super stressed and they're freaking out and it's gonna look terrible, but when they go nailed it and the thing falls and it just looks like garbage and Nicole Byer just bursts out laughing and goes, "Oh my god, like what is that?" Uh
That would
it's
be
like
me if I tried to
yeah.
attempt anything that was like the caliber of the Great Canadian or the British Bake Off or whatever. It would
Yeah.
just be like, no, nope, you don't know what you're doing with fucking what is it? Marzipan and oh, what is that other
Yeah.
one that they used to mold everything? Fondant.
Yeah. Modeling chocolate and Rice Krispie squares. Let's
Oh my
go.
god, they can make anything out of that shit. Oh, okay, I
Yeah.
derailed it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so fun though. Feel good shows are definitely my cooking shows.
Oh, yeah, they're good. Good to fall asleep to. I put some on last night,
Yeah.
even though I had started another show recently. I was like, that'll be keeping me up too much.
Yeah.
um, but damn. Wait, what are we talking about this week? It's still creepy twins, right?
Yeah. Mine's not all that creepy. I had kind of
Yeah.
mentioned to you before I had a bit of a problem finding like creepy twins. Uh
It may have been my suggestion, this idea.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
mine's probably more true crimey, but it still involves twins that I
Yeah.
mean,
Mine has
yeah.
elements of true crime.
Yeah. Mm.
Damn. Well, I mean, a lot of the shit you get if you type in creepy twins is like the Shining twins anyway.
Yeah.
But I knew there was like a few cases like that could fall into bizarre or, creepy or crimey or whatever,
Yeah.
unexplained. Like the silent twins, which neither of us are covering, I don't think.
No.
But
No.
yeah, that's probably one of the only ones, the other ones that was like famous top of mind to me, where they like were just very codependent and like only talk to each other and kind of
Yeah,
develop
that
their
was
own
creepy.
language. And yeah, just it was over and above the normal twin bond where
Mhm.
they were like, I can't live, in society
Yeah.
without you. So yeah, then you got to get into like, what is this? Is it paranormal? Is it mental illness? So I guess
Mhm.
that's where we're going today.
Yeah. We'll see. I don't really have a like judgment, I guess, on whether I think this is probably drug addiction and then maybe some mental illness, but
Interesting.
I don't know. I unfortunately don't have a lot of details about like home life growing up or circumstances, I guess.
Oh, same. Same.
Yeah.
Mine's like a psychotic incident.
Yeah.
So that's great.
Mine's a lifetime, I guess, or at least
Oh.
20 some years of behavior.
Oh my God.
Uh,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. Um, well, shall we get into
Yeah.
it? A
I,
lifetime. Ooh.
yeah. Or
I'm
I guess
scared.
2 lifetimes. Because they're twins. uh,
In twin years, that's
yeah.
800. Or no, because we lived for 400 years.
Sure we do.
I'm optimistic. 200.
So I'm going to be talking about identical twins, Robert and Stephen Spahalski. Spahalski,
Ooh.
I think. I didn't look up how to pronounce their name. I forgot to. Uh,
I
but
may have one like that.
yeah, they through their lives both committed a few similar murders and even spent some time in the same prison. Um,
Oh,
yeah,
well,
but they didn't
that's
really
different.
they weren't really in contact with each other during this time. So they really only heard about each other through like them being in the same prison or through like their different arrests. It would kind of come back to them and be like, hey, your brother's arrested. Hey, he's in this prison for doing this now. Like, kind of thing. They weren't like
Okay.
in communication with each other and really anyway, as far as
Right.
I could tell.
Okay. No, and that's even weirder though, because like if you hear about twins, that like marry the woman with the same
Yeah.
name or whatever when they don't grow up together, you're like, that's weird enough. But then murders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they were born in 1955 and they grew up in Elmira, New York in the 1960s. And it
Ooh.
did say that the two shared was described as a strong twin bond. Said that they always seemed to
Okay.
know where the other was and what they were doing.
So they did
So they,
grow up together.
yeah, yeah, they
Okay.
grew up with their parents, and they both like to party a whole lot.
We
And
like to party. We like
we
to
like to
party. We
party.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Uh, yeah, so they like to party. There's gonna be a lot of like drunkenness. Um, and then
Shenanigans.
it also said that they were both pretty gifted in gymnastics. It didn't
Okay.
talk about like anything that they did when they were younger involved in that, just that they were involved in gymnastics, I guess.
All right.
About the
They
only
were
other
hella
thing,
good.
yeah, they could do some flips and cartwheels. I don't
Very
know.
flexible.
Yeah.
I like
Uh,
gymnastics though. I was in that for a few years as a kid. Like if you're gonna have to do something, if your parents gonna
uh,
put you into something, I'd rather that than like piano.
yeah, I never took it. But I guess
I
I was
mean,
on
I've
like a
never.
soccer team though, so that was probably my extracurricular activity.
I mean, did they never take you in like a school trip though, or something, where at least you get to go and try the
Oh yeah.
trampoline?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
did that I think once.
yeah.
But yeah.
Oh my God, we should go to one of those trampoline places here if they have them.
They do. There used to be one near pretty close to my house, but I don't
Oh,
know if it's
really?
there anymore. That was a number of years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. About one of the only other things I have about their family life was just that their parents divorced when they were 12.
Okay.
And at that time they were raised and stayed with their mom. So their dad, I guess, is gone.
Do they have other siblings?
I don't think so. If they do, it was never talked about from what I could
Okay.
find. Yeah.
Hopefully not then.
Yeah.
Those poor other overshadowed siblings.
So Stephen Spahalski, he was, I just have in the very beginning, I have his name and then just killed first. So in like
Oh, as in
yeah,
he killed first.
he killed first. Yeah,
I was like,
he
oh
did
my
not die
god.
first.
Yeah.
No. So Stephen in 1971 in Elmira, he had snuck up behind a store owner named Ronald Ripley, who was 48, and he hit him over the head with a hammer, like a bunch of times, and then basically after that, I don't think it was with the hammer. It might have been a different weapon. He then also stabbed him a bunch, and it said he'd stabbed him to death.
Oh my
So,
god.
like, pretty vicious attack. This is according to
Like hammer
newspaper.
in one hand, knife in the
Yeah,
other.
that's
Oh my
according to
god.
newspapers at the time. And in 1971, the twins were only 15. So like Stephen committed the first kill at age 15.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's getting started young.
Yeah, pretty early. And
Jeez.
Stephen confessed quickly when police finally located him. And newspapers at the time wrote that he had a twin brother in Chemung County Jail that was already in jail on a parole violation, um, which we'll get
Okay.
to. But it was like different crimes. It wasn't like murder related yet for Robert, but he was already in jail on parole violations at 15 as well.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, they're going great. The
I
district.
mean, troubled teens. We all have them, don't we?
The district attorney Ranson Reynolds Jr. said that Stefan admitted to killing Ripley because he made what was described as unwanted homosexual advances on him.
Ugh, not the
So
fucking gay panic defense or whatever. Oh my
yes, he
god.
is saying that's what happened. So Stefan was convicted of manslaughter and was able to escape life in prison. He wasn't committed to life in prison because he was still a
Ugh.
minor. He was just 15 at the time. And I think
Well,
it said
how
he
old was
was
this other person? I wonder.
48. He's 48.
That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Mm-hmm. So he was
Okay.
convicted at like 17, I guess, by like the time they did it, I think I read.
And he either overpowered this 48-year-old
Well,
like in a rage.
no, he snuck up behind him.
Oh, right. He snuck
Yeah.
up. Because of course,
Yeah.
because he's going to take a cheap
And then
shot.
just started like, yeah, whacking him on the head with a hammer,
Ugh.
which would incapacitate anybody.
God damn it. It's
Yeah.
hammer time. Sorry.
He said as to his motives that he didn't. This was like a article thing. I think one of the newspapers talked to him.
Okay.
He said he didn't want to talk on it and said, "quote If I kill someone, I kill them for a reason. That's all I know." Um,
Okay, good. I'm
yeah.
glad you know that there's a reason.
Good for you. Yeah.
Too bad it's probably not a good enough reason for anyone else.
Yeah.
Jeez.
It the sources also then went on to say that Stephen spent most of the rest of his life serving sentences for lesser crimes like robbery, kidnappings, and parole violations. Have no details about robberies or kidnappings. Um,
Oh,
or I guess
okay.
I might have details about a robbery, but no kidnappings or parole violations.
He's a
So
busy guy. I take it.
yeah, they're both pretty busy because well, Steven's been doing this whole thing. That brings us to Robert, who is doing a lot more stuff than his brother.
You wouldn't want to be outshined.
Yeah. Robert had problems at school, and one of the sources said at one point he set a fire at school, I was able to find more information. There was a cool like life event thing that some university put together. What was this?
Mm.
What is it? Uh, the timeline put together by the Department of Psychology at Radford University. They like put through a timeline of like Robert's life because he did a lot more stuff.
Oh my
Um,
god.
yeah. So
Yeah, that's
running,
either a really good thing that there's a timeline of your life or a really bad thing.
right? I'm gonna try and find on their timeline because it's just like a little like infographic kind of thing.
Oh,
So
okay.
like
Those are
15.
fun.
So yeah, they're born in like 1954, 1955. In July of 1971, Robert is charged with unauthorized use of a motor vehicle after being stopped by police. The next month, he's charged with felony arson after police say he set fire to a stage curtain and flag at a school. So I believe that's the fire they were talking about.
Oh my god, okay.
A couple
Bold.
months later, still in 1971, he's ordered to serve 15 weekends in jail after he pleads guilty to unauthorized use of the stolen vehicle from July. Um,
Okay.
it's then that Ronald Ripley is found murdered by his brother, Stephen, who later confesses. The next month, Stephen plead or Robert pleads guilty to criminal trespassing charge after he returns to a business in town when he knew he wasn't allowed on the premises.
Okay, yeah. So they're getting him for a bunch of little shit now.
Yeah. So there's, I think that's, oh, at 19, he was found guilty of taking about $3,000 in cash and equipment from a music store in town and was sentenced up to 5 years in prison. So I think that's 1973. That brings me to that should be about when this one is. Yeah, I think so. Um, so after Robert's release from prison for parole violation and shortly after Stephen murdered Ripley, Robert was in and out of various correctional facilities and even the same ones as Stefan was in. So sometimes they were in the same one and they like saw each other, but other than that, they didn't really have contact as far as I could tell.
Okay. Awkward. Hey,
During
bro.
right during one of the times they were incarcerated together, I guess it was they couldn't tell them apart because they're identical twins. Um,
Okay,
so
okay.
one of the twins planned an elaborate jailbreak. They had built a hidden compartment in an old U.S. Army truck that some of the inmates were servicing, probably as part of like a labor works. Um,
Oh, weird.
yeah, so they built this kind of hidden compartment, and one of the twins hid inside while it was supposed to leave the facility along with another inmate. So they didn't plan this together. Just like one of the twins did, but to this day they don't actually know which twin like did it, I guess. Because they can't tell them apart at prison. It's kind of funny.
And he
Um
didn't succeed.
no, it
Otherwise,
never
they would
left
have
the
been able to.
premises. Yeah, they didn't get out of like the actual, I guess, fenced in facility. Um
Well, it's a better plan than, what is it, going out through the shit tunnels, the sewers? Is that what it
um,
is? Anyway, we were just
I mean, it
talking
works
about.
in Shawshank.
Well, we were just talking about that because I was saying to Pat, I don't know what movies we're gonna watch on movie night when Kelsey's here,
Shawshank!
but I told her that I've never seen
Shawshank. I will watch
Yes.
it in all my happiness beside you while we watch one of the most depressing movies in the world.
Well, because I made you watch Lebowski, and I was like, it's one
Yeah.
of those classics you gotta see before you die. And you were like, you've never seen Shawshank. And I was like, I guess probably not in its entirety.
Yeah. Great movie.
I know that it didn't stink like shit in the sewers because they had like chocolate wafers or something. So I'm like, I feel like I know all about it. I just still haven't quite seen
uh,
it.
it's good. Yeah. It's a good one.
All right, well, we might be doing that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, so this is like great elaborate jailbreak they're trying to do.
Right.
Um the correctional officials didn't know which of the twins it was, and weren't able to ever figure it out, even though Stefan insisted that it was Robert, because they
Of course he
couldn't.
did.
Yeah, because they could never confirm who it was that actually did it. They were both
Oh my
thrown into
god.
solitary. Um,
Oh wow.
yeah, just to be sure, it
Ugh,
said. It did have,
seems
like,
lazy.
in the little timeline thing, it did have a little bit more information. It said they hid in the false bottom of the truck that was being sent to a government facility. Prison officials had reason to believe that one of the twins was in the truck, but he evaded officers when he ran into a vocational auto body shop at the prison where both brothers worked.
Oh.
So, yeah, they didn't make it off the
Oh.
premises, and
So they
officers
worked
couldn't
at the
prove.
auto body shop. That's why they
Yeah,
were
that's why they were
working on
working
the.
the
Oh,
truck.
okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. So they because they both worked there, they didn't know like who had built whatever in the truck
That's
and
so
stuff.
funny. That's like there's players that were on the Vancouver Canucks hockey team, which
Mm.
is, if anyone cares to know, Pat's second favorite hockey team after the Edmonton Oilers. Because duh, we're in Edmonton. But the Sedines, yeah, they're so hard to tell apart. Like they have
Oh,
different numbers, but like yeah, whenever like they would one of them would skate by and they do a close up, I'm like, which one is that? I have no idea. Like they're like the Weasley twins. In fact, they
yeah,
were redheads. But they're Swedish or
yeah.
whatever. But yeah, they were so hard. Like, but you think after a while, like those type of, the coaches and the other players, they would be able to probably tell them apart.
Oh, yeah.
Because once you get to know twins, I think it is easier
Yeah.
usually.
When you look at pictures, I really only found one picture of them, and I think it's like mugshots, and they must have been taken like within a couple years of each other, because
Hmm.
other than the facial hair and the like haircut, and I think one of them has glasses, the other one doesn't, they are like identical.
Oh wow.
Like it's
Okay.
pretty wild. Like they have the same like facial structure. One of them, I think it says like one of them weighs less, so like his face is like a little bit thinner and stuff, but yeah, definitely can
Yeah,
tell.
it's crazy how it's like those minute details that are
Mhm.
what it takes to tell identical twins apart and stuff.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It did say that the second last time Robert was in prison, this is kind of jumping ahead, was at an Attica maximum security prison. So there was like a big
Ooh.
riot there. Um,
Oh
we didn't get
no.
into it, but it's like that um, Attica prison riot. He was there for 2 years from 1987 to 1989, and once Robert was released, it, it said he worked as a hustler and allegedly became addicted to crack. So,
Crack.
yeah,
Also 87 to 89. That includes 88.
yeah,
Sorry.
it
That,
does.
well, and that's also not just because I love 88, but that's because this time it's the number of the episode.
Oh, yeah,
I've been like seeing so many numbers lately. I don't know if it's because we did the the episode that you
probably.
know Peek Beside the Curtain came out today, the unlucky numbers. But I've been like so noticing all the 1111s and all those kind of numbers
It's probably just because
lately,
you're more aware of it.
right?
Yeah,
But isn't it fun?
yeah, it's all right. Um,
Shut up. It's all
so
right.
in 1990, when the twins were 35, this is when Robert killed for the
Okay.
first time.
Oh,
And it said he continued basically until he was arrested again. He had quite we wouldn't call it a spree, but yeah, he got away a number of years without
oh,
them
really?
figuring out. Yeah.
Who'd he kill in '95?
In 1990, there is
Oh.
Maureen Armstrong, who was a sex worker that was working in Rochester, New York, and
Oh.
she was found dead in her apartment by police on December 31st, 1990. And
Damn.
it said that she was wearing just one of her socks. I don't know if that's the only clothing she had on,
Wow.
but when she was found, she had electrical cords, multiple electrical cords that were wrapped around her neck, so she had been like strangled.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Probably
And
sexually assaulted then, especially if she was only wearing a sock, if that's the case.
yeah.
Ugh.
Robert had allegedly hung around the scene and even spoke to police during the investigation, where he had identified himself to them as being Maureen's friend. So, I mean,
Oh.
he wasn't
But
hiding very good. So, they at least talked to
oh,
him.
yeah. Well, those damn cocky murderers always want to come back to the scene. So
Yeah.
gross.
Uh, then about 7 months later, Robert's girlfriend, Adrienne Berger, she was found dead in her apartment in Rochester, New York. It said that there was like flies everywhere, like on the windows and stuff, and that neighbors like
Hmm.
noticed it, and there was also a strong smell that they could smell
Oh.
even from outside the building, which started leading to complaints. So then
Oh
after the
my
complaints
God.
happened, her body was discovered,
I
and
guess so.
yeah, it
It's
had
not a
been a
body, it's a demonic possession with that many flies.
yeah, pretty gross.
Yeah.
I guess the body was so degraded after rotting, and there was like a big heat wave in New York, and New York gets fucking hot. Um,
Yeah.
there's a huge
Muggy.
heat wave in the apartment that the body was in, and it was there for like multiple days, and it was so degraded that no cause of death could ever be determined. So
Oh,
because of this, I think they
shit.
ruled it as like at least semi suspicious.
Good.
So they were questioning people. Uh, they did discover that her car had been moved after her death and had been moved and parked a few blocks away so that neighbors would think she was away and like it wasn't
Oh,
near.
really?
Yeah.
Wow, he was trying to be pretty thorough then.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Authorities did finally figure out Robert was in a relationship with her because that was his girlfriend, and they did question
Oh.
him without anything though to link him to her actual death. He was let go.
Ugh.
Um, yeah, because they
And
couldn't even prove like her cause of death, so they couldn't prove it was murder or anything.
and where did they
So,
find her again?
in
Sorry.
in her apartment.
Okay, but he didn't live there.
I
Must
don't
not
think
have.
so.
Oh, that really sucks.
Hmm.
That really messes up with their timeline and everything like that. I hate that.
So, according to court documents and everything, he was later convicted of her murder, but that's after he was like arrested for some other stuff.
Oh.
Um, so that same year, 19 yeah, this would be 1991, Robert killed his only male victim, Charles Grand, who he beat to death with a hammer, just like his brother Stephen had done to Ripley 20 years before. Exactly 20 years before.
20 years before now?
Yeah, because this is 1991.
Sorry. I must have
Yeah.
lost track of the timeline. I'm sorry. I need the infographic. No.
Oh, it's not very helpful. It's only just about Robert.
Oh, okay. God damn.
Um,
So how old is he at this point? Do you know?
they'd be,
They were born in what
yeah, they'd
year?
be 35, 35, 36.
Okay, so the one
Yeah,
started at like
15.
15. Okay, I remember the 15. That was young. That did seem really
Yeah.
young. But damn, it's so weird
Mhm.
that the next one doesn't do something till like 20 years later. Like, what the fuck?
Well, this is the third victim.
Okay.
Yeah. So Charles was killed in Webster, New York, and it said at this time that Robert was selling his body on the street, like in the area, and that him and Charles Grant had gotten to a dispute over payment, and that's why he had killed him, which seems kind of
Great.
strange. Yeah. Uh, and then following this, like Charles' murder, during the next 10 years, as far as records show, Robert laid low. He didn't really do anything other than sell drugs, continued to be an addict, and had contracted HIV.
Oh no. Not
Yeah,
good.
living a hard life. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and like all through this whole time, the brother Stephen was still serving his 30-year prison sentence that had started back in 1979. Um, it was actually for an armed robbery conviction. So there's like no details about that. I'm like, I wish I had details about some of their other crimes.
Okay.
Because,
Because you said
yeah,
he's serving 30 years for that one?
30 years for an armed robbery conviction,
Yeah,
even though he killed
that's a
somebody.
lot.
So he had been like released from prison for killing that guy 20 years before, and now he's serving time for armed robbery. Mm.
Okay, okay. So it
Yeah.
is a bit cumulative then if this is your
Yeah.
second major offense, but
Yeah.
yeah, it sounds weird. It sounds like you should get
Yeah.
way more for yeah, murder than
Yeah.
robbery.
Because he was a minor, he didn't get very much.
Hmm.
So in
Okay, right.
2005, Robert ended up striking again. Uh, Reportedly, Robert had smoked too much crack, and he says that he had a vision of his friend Vivian Irizarry, who he said he saw her turning into a demon,
Oh
which told
no.
him or something that it needed to be vanquished.
Oh my
So,
God.
yeah, Robert then decides to attack Vivian and he strangles her to death, which is just terrible because that's like your friend.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, complete psychosis, psychotic breakdown. Like,
Yeah.
wow. Totally
Um,
delusional.
yeah. After he like knew she was dead, it said that he bathed her body for some reason and then put it in the basement where it was cooler. Um, and basically just
Oh
left
my
her
God.
body there. He later said that he visited her body from time to time and said that he would cry or apologize like to it. He would cry over it and like apologize for killing her.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so he feels some sort of remorse.
Right? Yeah.
Weird.
And
Yeah.
your weird drug hallucinations.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, after this, uh, Stefan, the brother, he's still in prison. Other brother still in prison. He told reporters that same year that he had also communicated with his only victim, Ripley, after he had killed him. Which is like a tie-in to like his brother Robert doing the same kind of thing later with Vivian, and like crying over her
Okay.
body and stuff. So Steven said that he would talk to Ripley, and this quote makes absolutely no sense. Um, he said, he's deceased, but I do business afterwards with him through a computer. His papers are in order with me. He don't owe me nothing. He's trying to get me, Ronald Ripley, but I already did business with him, Stephen told the outlet. Like, what does that even mean?
What?
I
Yeah.
have no idea.
Am I wait, have you I don't this doesn't have anything to do with it really, but there's that show now that's called Ghosts that's based off a UK show and it's like the
Oh, yeah.
girl inherits an old house and she can see all the ghosts in there.
Yeah.
Like, even that, when you're talking to like 20 ghosts, it like makes more sense than I don't
That quote.
understand what he was
I
going
know, I
for.
have no idea. Um,
The ghost forgives me. Like, wait, what? Is that what you're trying to say? No, I don't
maybe,
know.
I have no idea. So, just days after Robert had strangled Vivian, and like kind of talked to her body just for a few days. I don't know if he was like hanging around her place when this was happening or what. He does end up
Okay.
walking into a Rochester public safety building, which they said was similar to like a police building. Probably not
Okay.
quite. And he ended up confessing to murdering her, and they did go in and find her body. And during this time, Robert then confessed to 3 additional murders as well that they like weren't ever going to link to him, probably.
Oh wow,
Um,
he just offered them up.
yeah, he wanted to confess and tell them everything.
Wow.
Um, I think I just have to look at the. Yeah, there's like a couple other things about like him in the meantime. He had like robbed a few different stores, had a couple like aggravated
Minor.
assault kind of cases. Yeah.
Doesn't
Um
compare to his other
yeah.
escapades.
Yeah. So finally in 2006, Robert, who was, or I guess the twins both at that time were 52, Robert
Mm,
was then convicted and sentenced to 4 consecutive 25 year to life sentences, one for each of the murders.
wow.
So like 25 to life for each of them, like in a
Oh,
row.
and
So
he had
basically 100 years he was sentenced to prison for.
oh, so he had
Like
5 total?
four.
4. Sorry.
Yeah.
Wow.
And um yeah, so Robert's now the one that's in prison again, and Stefan hears about Robert's killings, uh and which is kind of crazy. He like didn't know his brother was doing this. Again, they weren't really in contact. Um
Okay, right.
so he was talking, there was an interview with a newspaper while he was in prison where he said, quote, "I thought I was the only murderer in the family." He said to the interviewer, a guard at the Attica Correctional Facility had apparently handed Stefan a news clipping reporting that his twin had confessed to 4 murders. Quote, "He'll never see the streets again. He's gone," Stefan said. It's like, yeah, he is.
Okay.
Like, he killed 4 people.
Yeah, sorry, that was just a lot to unpack there.
Stefan was set to be released around that time, like 2006, for good behavior, but he ended up not getting out until years later in 2009 after his full 30-year sentence had been served.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's I mean, it happens.
Yeah.
Like a lot of times you
Like,
don't get out early for good behavior or whatever.
yeah. Uh, so this happened. So he was out, and then just 6 months later, he had tried to rob a bank, and this we can talk
After he
about.
was in jail for 30 years?
We'll talk about it. It's a running theme in the Shawshank Redemption, and it's called institutionalized or institutionalization. Um,
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
cuz
So
you're
he had
like
been
so
in
used to
jail.
prison life.
He'd
Yeah.
been in jail for
Oh,
30 years. So he was out
they
for
don't know
six
how to
months.
live.
And it's
Yeah.
likely he wanted to go back because in this like bank robbery he committed, he had handed uh, a bank teller basically a note that was just demanding money and then didn't do anything else. He like turned around, sat down, and just waited for them to call the police and the police to arrive. Like he didn't try to leave, he didn't try to actually get the money, nothing. He basically
Oh
just
my
handed the note so
god.
that she would call the police or they would call the police. Yeah.
That's so hard for me to understand in a way. But yeah, I definitely have heard about that.
Mhm. Yeah, so there is like kind of psychologists and stuff that believe after spending 30 years in prison. He was pretty institutionalized, and he had probably just wanted to go back because he was unfamiliar with the outside world. And because of this attempted armed robbery, however, Stefan was only sentenced to just 30 or 300 days for the attempted bank robbery, so not even a
Oh.
whole year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's like a slap on the wrist.
Yeah. Um yeah, I only have a tiny bit left. The only really update I could find was that Stefan was released from prison again in 2016, and he had been living in a halfway house. Um, and that he, during this his prison interview that he had conducted at some point, he didn't try to speculate on what his twins' possible motives for killing four people was, and saying that he didn't know what, like, I don't know what made him do that.
I mean,
But
fair.
yeah.
Yeah. You can't really
Um,
expect to know, especially if they're not close, I guess.
yeah.
Hmm.
There was a true crime writer. This was from 585 magazine. I think it was like a true crime writer. He was writing for his book, and I think he was talking to Robert as kind of a pen pal
Oh.
um for like part of the book, I guess. So he had this kind of correspondence while he was serving out his prison sentence. And at one point, he asked Robert how he learned to kill. And then, according to Benson, Robert said that he started as a teenager, which we don't have proof of, other than, like, not at least on people. But Robert claims that he took his father's favorite pig. So apparently they had a pig. And he shot, like, the pig in the head and killed it, and then said that his dad was really angry with him, that he shot his
Oh my
dad's
god.
favorite pig with a gun. And then it says Benson
Well,
asked Robert,
yeah.
uh, yeah, if his father was angry when he did it, or if he was angry with his father when he did it. So, like, what could your motive possibly be? And Robert said, no, I wasn't angry. I felt like pork chops. And, like, that's all he said. So, like, he had, like, absolutely no empathy. Like, the animal, nothing. It's like, I felt
Yeah.
like pork chops, so I shot it in the head. Like,
That like
so
reminds me
crazy.
so much of fucking Robert Picton's parents. They like
Mm.
killed his prize. Was I can't remember if it was a pig or a well, because they had a pig farm. So yeah, wasn't it his
Yeah.
favorite pig or something? And they killed it. He just came home one day after school, and his mom was like, "Oh, go check out up in the barn." Like some kind
Yeah.
of psychopath, and they had killed his favorite fucking animal that he had like named and shit, if I
Jeez.
remember correctly. Ugh. What is wrong with people?
Yeah. It was like, I feel like Robert's a little. Well, they're both a little fucked. I mean, they both killed at least one person, so yeah.
Yeah.
But
Well,
that's
so was
my
Robert
case.
Picton. He killed almost fucking 50.
Yeah.
But that was his parents that did that shit to him. Damn.
Yeah.
This is messed up.
Yeah, so not very creepy, but I mean, weird that, like, they weren't really in contact and they were only hearing about it after the fact. Like,
Yeah, because you hear about this psychic twin shit where they're like, oh,
yeah.
I'm miles away and they like feel each other pain or something. It's usually a lot more like innocent.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not
And,
like,
like,
I
they're gonna
felt your
call
murderous
me.
rage.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, you were killing someone, I was killing someone later. Just like, like I just imitated you. I felt the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, a
Oh,
little strange.
yeah, it is. It's a it's a gross parallel. Like,
Yeah.
I've never heard of those people.
I
It's like,
hadn't either. They came up on one of the lists, and I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Like, there's been a few
yeah.
times where, like, brothers or family members have both ended up being, like,
Mm-hmm.
murderers or whatever. So,
True. Or
yeah.
unfortunately, when like parents are so bad that the kids take it up, and you're like, no, you should have gone
Yeah.
the other way. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh,
Become a
crazy.
nun. No.
Yeah, yeah. Don't perpetuate this. But it is, yeah. Definitely, it's hard to run away from if mental illness or abusiveness
Yeah.
is in the family or in your past. That shit's hard. But
Yeah, other than
man,
their divorce,
yeah,
like the parents divorcing, there was nothing really about their home life or
yeah,
anything that I ran across that talked about anything. So,
very
yeah.
strange.
Yeah, something weird. But
Kids, they're creepy. Watch out for yours.
twins.
Right? Double the trouble.
Ah.
Also, what was it? Oh, I finally listened to the episode of Well, That's Interesting Today that had the title I was kept seeing when I was skimming that was like baby born with her own set of twins, and I was like, how? And
Like
it kind
the
of it's almost like, yeah, when like a twin gets absorbed into like the
yeah,
womb, but instead they like got absorbed into the fetus, and it's called like in fetus
yeah,
felicis. No, I don't know. That's the Harry Potter fucking syrup, but or potion. But yeah, it's like it's a thing that happens, and I'm like, that
yeah.
is very strange.
There was one that came up when I was looking up creepy twins, and it kept coming up. It was a guy, I think in like India or something, that had his twin like surgically removed from like his stomach or like that kind of area
Oh,
on his gut. Basically, just made him look like he
oh,
was like 4 years pregnant, and like,
oh, that's so
but
great.
it had like teeth, it had limbs, everything. It was so
Oh my
creepy. They showed
god.
pictures of like the X-rays that he had done of it. Ugh. Yeah, no thanks.
This is why I listened to that. Well, that's interesting because it's weird ass fucking gross science shit.
Yeah. No, I
The
couldn't
human
handle that
body is
stuff.
creepy enough.
I
It can
wouldn't be
be
able to
hard.
sleep at night.
Oh, it can be hard. Yeah, you can't listen to too much of it because then you're like the co-host going, "Ah, do I have that right now?"
Jeez. Yeah.
It can make you a little paranoid for sure. But
Yeah.
anyway, you might have swallowed your twin and you're just the more better for it. You're just super powered.
God.
Well, the one lady, um, it was probably on that show too. She had her children and she was applying for some sort of, you know, child welfare benefit or whatever, and or something like that. And then it was weird because her kid's DNA, as it came out, didn't match her DNA. And that
Yeah.
seemed really weird because she was like, I remember birthing these people. And then, like, the like office of, I don't know who it was, whatever that what she was applying for was like, oh, you're pregnant now, we'll watch this one come out or something. And then they like test it after she gives birth, and they're like, yeah, the DNA still doesn't match. It's like she had had a twin in the womb or something, and
Hmm.
however she'd absorbed it, it like ended up comprising all the DNA of her uterus, so all of her kids had her, not her DNA, it had her like
Weird.
twins DNA.
I
She had to
haven't
get a
heard about
maternity
like that.
test.
Yeah, I haven't heard
Yeah.
about like that being like a twin related, but I've heard about like people's like if you draw blood from their arm, it like won't show they're related, but if you draw like their like spinal fluid or whatever, it'll show that they're related. Like it's different. You can have like two sets of DNA in your
Ah.
body at the same time.
Yes, this was
Yeah.
that. It's kind of a chimerism sort of
Yeah.
situation. I guess it is a little different, but very interesting.
That was weird.
So weird. Oh. And we talked about the one where the doctor, you talked about the one with the doctor and the blood,
Yeah.
and we, oh, that was fucked up. Um, well, you didn't cover it, but I don't, if anyone listened, we talked about it because it was a forensic files, and it was fucked up case of I'm gonna put fake blood in a vial in my arm because I'm a doctor that's gonna fool the system. What
He
the
did,
fuck?
though. He technically did for
For a
5 years.
while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they
Ugh.
figured it out.
God, thank God for tenacious women. She wasn't
Hmm.
gonna let it go. Anyway, on that tangent, we'll be right back for another case.
Yeah.
We're live.
We're back, baby.
We're back. Back in black. Okay. I am coming at you with the story of the Erikans. Erican? Oh my god. That's Pat's character's name in D&D. Not the Erican sisters, the Erickson sisters. So, I don't know. You said you probably didn't really know this one, but may have come across it when searching. So I'm kind of excited to tell you.
They did it on Wine and Crime, so I know it from that.
Oh, right. Okay, yes, yes. Yeah, it's kind of an oddity. So I'm not surprised a few places have covered it because it's like kind of a head scratcher. Um, but yeah, if you haven't heard it, just buckle in, and if you have, buckle in.
Yeah.
um, oh, I didn't really mean that to be a pun, but you'll see. So, Ursula and Sabina Eriksson were born on November 3rd in 1967 in Sweden. They grew up with their older sister Mona and their older brother Bjorn. Love it.
Yeah.
Not their baby brother Bjorn. No baby Bjorn. But they grew up in oh, see, again, I like to say that I would look this up if I had had time, but I didn't. Because I often don't. But it's like a place in Sweden, so soon Varmland or Sune, maybe. Not too sure, sorry. Um, but yeah, it was like a pretty unremarkable childhood. There was no history of any like mental illness in the family or anything like that.
Hmm. Yeah.
So pretty quiet. Um, but then we'll just fast forward to 2008 because we don't know very much about their childhood. Um, yeah. So on May 16th, at this point, Sabina is living in a place called Mallow, County Cork in Ireland, which I just love the name County Cork.
Yeah.
It's so very Irish sounding.
Yeah.
Uh, Scottish names are fun too. Of course, reading a book with a lot of Scottish names right now. Big surprise. But yeah, I love the County Cork makes me think of wine bottles, I guess.
Yeah.
So, anyway, she is living there with like her husband and children, and her sister Ursula had been living in the US. But she popped over the pond for a visit to see her sister Sabina in Ireland on around the 16th of May.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, just coming over for a little visit. All seems pretty nice and normal. She hadn't been there for about a day, however, when the two sisters then decided to take a day trip to Liverpool, England for some reason. So they're leaving Ireland. Um,
Liverpudlians.
oh my god. That's such a fun name
Yeah.
for the inhabitants of
I love
Liverpool.
Liverpool. Come
I'm
on,
from Liverpool.
Liverpool.
I it makes me think of yeah, Ozzy or the Beatles or
I always think of the Beatles, yeah.
yeah, that's true. It's much more known for the Beatles, you're right. Isn't that where Abbey Road is or whatever?
I think so, yeah.
I can't remember. I've read books where people were big Beatles fans. I'm like, I have not been to Liverpool.
I would love to go to Liverpool.
Oh, so cool. Oh yeah. We
I
really
would
liked the
love to,
Beatles Cirque du Soleil show. That was really fun in
yeah.
Vegas. Yeah.
I would want to walk along Abbey Road, and then I would want to go um Oh fuck, what's her name?
Her. Her name?
Yeah, that chick's grave. Um,
Wait.
oh my god,
Princess Diana? No.
no, from the Beatles
No.
song, it's like literally just a grave that they saw in
Oh,
like,
Eleanor Rigby?
yeah. Yeah, it's just like
Oh.
a grave that they saw in like a
Oh, is
cemetery.
it?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay, okay. So that's kind of
Yeah.
like people go to, there's a graveyard in one of the, there's a grave in one of the Halifax graveyards that's J. Dawson, and so people flock
Mhm.
to it after Titanic because they didn't know if it was Jack Dawson.
Oh my
But that one's, yeah, that one's
god.
not necessarily based off the character.
No, no.
It's true though. um, okay, so they're going off to Liverpool from Ireland. They may have taken a ferry, but it's unconfirmed. Nobody went with them, and we don't get a lot of information from them after the fact, we'll say.
Yeah.
Ba-ba-ba-ba. So they arrived in Liverpool around 8:30 the next day on the 17th of May. And shortly after arriving there, they stopped into the St. Anne Street. I saw it a couple ways. I don't know.
Hmm.
St. Anne police station. And for reasons that are quite unknown, they kind of made like a complaint or a comment that Sabina was concerned about her children's welfare. So the ones
Okay.
were back home with the husband that they had like literally just left a day ago and were apparently fine when they left, I guess.
My husband's incompetent. He can't keep our children alive.
Now that I could believe. That person that's a bit of a control freak and if I, I'll just do it myself.
Yeah.
Like we just we're rewatching a lot of that 70s show lately. I
Hmm.
don't know. I think I told you because that 90s show is coming and we just love that show and now Rain's starting to get the jokes too. So but they're going to get married, Eric and Donna, but then she's trying to make him pick out everything for the wedding and he like doesn't want to do it and then his dad's like just act incompetent like you want to hear those
Yeah.
sweet words, I'll just do it myself. He's like, I once tried to pick out a couch that had dragons on it for your mother.
Jesus.
Just perfect. Yeah, that's what that made me think of. Amazing. um yeah, and the only thing that could even like possibly explain I don't know, I guess any unhappiness was some reports said she may have argued with her husband the night before, but it's not a
Okay.
big reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Concerned about the welfare of her children. Okay.
It's bizarre.
Hmm.
A lot of this is bizarre. So they end up in London. Oh, sorry. Blah, 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 blah. A possible argument. The police there contacted officers in Dublin and promised to follow up later. Now, from Liverpool, they end up in London, but how they got there, kind of like the previous leg of the trip, is a little bit odd. They probably boarded a bus. Well, we know they boarded a bus because the bus driver remembers telling them to leave the bus after they were acting
Hmm.
suspicious and like holding onto their bags and clutching them to their chest and not letting them be searched or put into the baggage compartment.
Okay.
So, yeah, they were acting weird and stuff like that. And, you know, people have to be suspicious of bombs and stuff. So, like, he had to kick them off the
Yeah.
bus.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So they get kicked off at like a service station. Like, so yeah, I assume like a big truck stop, I guess we'd probably call it here. But like,
Yeah.
um, I think it's called Kiel Service Station. They told cops after that they weren't feeling well, and that's why they had to get off the bus. But you know,
Sure. Sure, Jan.
yeah, oh, yeah. He said they were acting suspicious. Oh God, and I actually did. I just remembered I mentioned in my notes that like, yeah, think about things that happen on buses that are scary, like one that we might never cover, that it was the Greyhound bus murder in Canada, that was where that guy got
Yeah.
literally beheaded and was extremely violent. Um,
Yeah, I've heard that covered on a couple things.
yeah, I mean, I don't want to sound disrespectful, so the victim had a name that was the death of Tim McLean, and it was near Portage la Prairie, Manitoba. But yeah, it's a
Hmm.
really gruesome, very,
Yeah.
very bad one. So yeah, I don't know. We might not do that one. Um, so they get let off the service station and they're continuing to act strangely, which causes the manager of the service station place to call the police to come
Hmm.
there and check on them.
Yeah.
So the police, yeah, they're like, okay, yeah, you're being weird. Police arrive and speak to them, and they just kind of find them pretty calm and not super aggressive. So there's not really much that they find as a threat.
Okay.
So, and I think it was said that nothing was found in their purses and stuff. So I don't know if they searched them here, but like they didn't have anything on them or anything.
Yeah. That's good. I mean, at least, they don't have weapons and stealing things or
Yeah.
whatever. They're just acting a little weird.
Yeah, because I don't know. Anyway, I was gonna say I don't know what the guy had on the bus. I can't remember. I think there might have been a sword involved or something, wasn't there? I don't know. He got beheaded
I
somehow.
think it was a machete.
Well, it had to be something big enough to take a
Yeah.
head off, so that would make sense because that would be easier to hide than a sword.
Yeah.
um. Anyway, I don't mean to make light. Um. So yeah, they're left to their own devices because they seemed calm and coherent. So the police leave, and then they start making their way away from the service station on foot. And
Fun.
they make their way toward the highway. Well, we call it a highway. They called it in most things like a carriageway or a motorway because it was in the UK.
Oh, yes.
And I
A
was like, isn't
carriageway.
I
What are
know.
you, filled with horses? Like, fuck
I was like,
you.
isn't that quaint? It's not still the 1600s.
Yeah.
Just kidding. I love you. I love all our British listeners. You know I love Scotland. Anyway, this is in England, but they begin to walk down the middle of the road, or as they called it in the one article, the central reservation of the M6, which I guess the M6 was the road, but the central reservation is the space between the divided lanes of the highway, I guess. So
Okay, yeah.
less of a median and more of maybe the whatever. We call it here a median or the divided highway or whatever. Um so then they appear to try and cross the road, and cars are like swerving and honking and doing everything they can to try and avoid this deadly
Yeah.
surprise game of Frogger.
Jeez.
Which
Yeah.
I love Frogger, by the way, but
Be very, very dangerous.
it's so scary.
Yeah. Don't fuck around on highways, please.
Right? And yeah, it's obvious like you could easily kill yourself. Like it's
Yeah.
it's a deadly game they're playing for sure. The police are called, and especially when one of them is actually finally grazed by a vehicle, which is inevitable at this point.
Yeah, lucky you weren't like full on hit and killed right
And
there.
killed, exactly. Um, this first car that grazed them, I believe, was a red Seat Leon. I don't know. It had a really weird name. It's just spelled like Seat Leon. I was not
Um,
familiar with the car make and model, but
yeah, I don't know.
Europe.
Maybe just a European vehicle.
This is coming from a girl who wanted to buy a car called an Outlander just because it's called after my favorite book series.
Oh my god.
Hey, shut up. Yours is just named after what? A place? No. A Tucson?
Yeah, I
Anyway.
guess. I call it the Tuxin.
The Tucson. Okay,
The
but
Tuxin.
ironically, that's where the author of Outlander is from, like Arizona.
Yeah.
It all comes circling back, baby. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm the worst. I'm especially bad because I'm now reading what Pat got me, which was it's a book written all about it's a Scottish almanac written all about the different traditions and stuff by two of the actors from Outlander.
Oh,
Anyway,
Jesus.
I'm sorry. It's really good though. Learning all about the circles of stones there. Okay, so now highway officers are on their way to the scene, along with officers from the Central Motorway Police Group. It's like a bunch of different cops are coming, including and not limited to the group of cameramen from the TV show that they also filmed there called Traffic Cops.
Glad to know they didn't just have that in the US. Or it's
Right? We have cops. Yeah, bad boys, bad boys. What you gonna do? Yeah.
yeah.
And I believe it's one of the like traffic cops people who are like kind of the first ones on the scene. So some of them are talking to the sisters who actually seem pretty reasonable and calm right now. So they're just like
Hmm.
having a smoke and a chat. It said that Sabina was wearing a yellow visor that read "Time to Believe." Don't know if that's significant.
Sounds fun.
I know. It's like I want to believe, like Fox Mulder's poster. um, and just as the other groups of officers were arriving on the scene, Ursula just all of a sudden darts into the road. So the officer closest to her actually reaches for her, but only manages to snatch her jacket, and it just comes off of her.
Hmm. Okay.
Like she rips out of it to run directly into the side of a huge tractor trailer. She
Jesus.
smashes into that. Yeah. I'm going to describe this part, but it is in one of the clips in that link I sent you. So you can actually
Yeah.
watch, not like watch, like it's not like graphic, but it's disturbing. Like you can see them
Yeah.
talking to her and then her running towards the road and stuff. So I'll just say this next part and then we can watch it if you want. So smack, she slams into the side of the truck, trailer, articulated lorry if you're in the UK. Like yeah, it's terrible. Like you can hear the screech of the tires and like her shoes just kind of go flying into the air into the next lane. Because this truck was going like it said 56 miles or 90 kilometers per hour.
God.
I mean, it's a highway, that makes sense, but like, yeah, that's
Yeah.
insane. And not even like a few minutes later, her sister Sabina dashed directly into oncoming traffic as well, where she was hit dead on by a Volkswagen Polo.
Jesus.
Yeah, her legs were crushed, and Sabina was unconscious for about 15 minutes, but escaped major injury.
Wow. She's very lucky.
Oh my god! so, so if you go to that link,
Yeah.
um, because one article ended up having two real good links to the little bit that appeared on like traffic cops or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I had to watch it when I was doing the research. It's only a couple minutes, but it was just like, okay, you're like you know, it's everything I just described, but it's just it's kind of disturbing to like watch it. Ugh.
Trying to get to the part where they're
Oh yeah, it's at the
it's like
bottom of the like article. Yeah, I had to like it's like you read the whole article and then once you're scrolled all the way to the bottom, then they have two links, so it would just be the first one you'd want to.
yeah, I'm trying to load it, but it's like not wanting to load very much.
Oh, okay. Um, it's weird for us to have like a video to show, which is why I was like,
Yeah.
like kind of excited that I got something to show to you. But it's
I don't know.
yeah. Um, sorry.
It's not playing anymore. I tried to jump ahead past like their intro thing, and now it's like not loading
Oh, yeah,
anymore.
there was, you're right, there was like maybe a minute of talking. I can read my next sentence while it's going. An air ambulance was called to take Ursula to the nearest hospital because her legs were, like you said, kind of horribly crushed, they said.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they had to like call for a medevac. So she's down, and so was Sabina, who was unconscious for about 15 minutes after being hit head on by the Volkswagen. But then as soon as she started regaining consciousness after about 15 minutes, she started getting very agitated and very aggressive.
Yeah.
And she was spitting and clawing at the poor um, the officer that was trying to hold her down. He's in the video. His name's Officer Finlayson. And she was like screaming at him and like fucking asshole, like just having a whole episode. Like,
Wow.
I believe this is when she's like calling for police when like the police are all there already. So it's obvious she's very distraught and like something's not right. Um, she starts trying to get up at that point, and they start telling her to try and stay put. And like one of them just says to chill, which I thought, I don't know, but that part made me kind of laugh. They're just like, just chill.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And as she comes around, she's, oh yeah, like I said, trying to get up, getting more aggressive. She was saying like, why are you filming me, kind of thing, like, why do you film me, like that was making her more upset and
Hmm.
agitated. And then she punched one of the female officers in the face and took off again. And she was screaming, why do you kill me? And at one point she screamed that they were going to steal your organs.
What?
I don't know. None of it made any sense. It was so
Yeah.
disjointed. Did it load?
Yeah, it's just playing through. It's just really long.
Oh, is it? I thought it
Yeah,
was
it's
only
like
like
a.
5 minutes.
No, this one's 11 minutes long. And I like can't jump ahead to anything or it doesn't load.
uh yeah, I remember they were like talking at the first. This is Trevor, blah 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 blah. But then once they start to show them by the side of the road, then it should maybe get into the real
Yeah.
stuff.
It's shown like a
Um,
couple little parts, but
do you have volume on it, or did you just turn it
I
down?
turned it down because I couldn't hear it and you at the same time.
Oh, it's. You could turn it up. It's like, oh, I was listening to it. Like, what the fuck?
It's mostly just them talking right now.
It's
Oh,
still them talking.
yeah.
Because for me, it's the parts where they get up again and then they say something. They're like, bloody hell, and they like try to start chase after them again. You're like,
Oh,
oh my god.
no, it
um,
just keeps like freezing. I don't think it's gonna play.
okay. Well, we'll try and put it on the website. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's screaming obscenities and about getting the cops and people stealing her organs, obviously like seeming quite paranoid and delusional at this point. um
Hmm.
but at that point, although it took 6 people, they were able to restrain her. At
Jeez.
that point, yeah, there was like two, I know two of the officers were like a female, and then there was like at least 2 or 3 of the traffic cops that were male, and then there was like also like a retired cop who I think was one of the motorists that happened to be like involved or at the
Jeez.
scene or whatever, because they had like a retired cop helping them. Like it took a bunch of people. Yeah, she was like crazy strong.
Yeah.
um then they handcuffed her and sedated her. They were like, we better just make sure, because they don't seem to like the other one's only down because like her legs are broken. She's still like
Yeah.
agitated too. um
Jesus.
it's so crazy. They found pieces of their shattered cell phones scattered around. It said several phones, and I was like, okay, is that like more than the 2 that they might have had? I don't know.
Yeah.
A number of cell phones, I think one article said, which, don't you hate that? A number?
Yeah, like
What
just
number?
tell me.
So they are taken to hospital. Ursula is obviously taken to the urgent care, and then Sabina, who was alert, and everything conscious, was looked over, but basically unharmed somehow.
Yeah. Oh my god.
I don't know. It's crazy. And they said she was even like quite, in high spirits at this point, like quite joking and almost like flirty with the staff and officers at this point.
All
And
right
she
then.
said, yeah, 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 yeah. She's got her mojo back. She said something like, in Sweden, we say that an accident rarely comes alone. Usually at least one more follows, maybe two.
Creepy.
But does that remind you of our suspicious
Yeah.
episode? Like that the accidents come in threes and you should break 2 things in your house?
Yeah.
Apparently they really believe it. I don't know.
I mean, it's like a thing around the world though. Like stuff coming in threes.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm just
Yeah.
like, that's so funny that it like came up again.
Yeah.
And I definitely wasn't looking for it. So she might have been kept overnight, but like Sabina wasn't kept very long at the hospital because she didn't have any severe injuries.
Mhm.
But also, although some reports and articles said that at this point a psych evaluation was done, a lot of other ones refuted that, and there doesn't seem to be any evidence to support this. So, especially as we'll get to some other things, like I doubt that she was properly evaluated mentally. Um,
Probably not if you're just in like an emergency room or standard hospital,
yeah,
they're typically aren't equipped to do like a psych eval
that's right.
unless they call
Yes,
people in. So,
they're and she's just there like for the one night in this case, and
yeah.
they didn't send her for further testing, it appears.
Hmm.
Um, so she pled guilty to charges for punching the officer and trespassing on a motorway, but was only given a day in jail. Either served that day in jail or they counted the night in hospital. It wasn't really clear to me,
Oh,
really.
weird.
She, yeah, she wasn't held long, I guess.
No, sounds like she
Oh
got
no.
off scot-free. Like, Jesus.
Yeah, but also without any help, you
Yeah.
know. I wrote they called the whole Clishmaclaver as done and let her go. Scottish words. Okay.
No.
It was all foobard. But okay, so now she's released from the hospital and she ends up wandering around the place the hospital was in, which is a place called Stoke-on-Trent. Lol. And she was wearing her sister's green shirt and just carrying the possessions that the police had handed back to her, like, when they give you back your possessions after you've been like
Yeah.
taken in or whatever. So she's just like carrying around a bag that has like a laptop, like her sister's laptop, and about $1,000 in cash also.
Okay.
You know, just released on her own recognition. Um, and she meets two guys walking down a street. They're walking a dog, and she stops to chat and pet their dog. I wrote one thing said stroke the dog, which makes me laugh because the way the British say stroke your dog instead of pet your dog makes me giggle.
No.
But anyway, she's mostly just like talking to them, and she asks them if there's anywhere she can stay around there, like a hotel or a bed and breakfast, whatever. Um, the man with the dog says, "Well, there is, but like you could just stay at my place." Um, he was a very kind man. His name was Glenn Hollins Head, 54. He was a paramedic and he was a former RAF airman, so he'd served in the military in the Air Force.
Mm-hmm.
And he and his friend Peter Malloy, they were out walking his dog that night, so he lived very close by. So they said, like, Peter remembers she seemed a little nervous, and she also made Peter a little nervous. But it was Glenn's house, his dog, his decision, and Peter was like,
Yeah.
whatever, I just went along with it. He's a nice guy. Yeah. So they got there and they hung out all evening. They had a pleasant time. In general, other than they said Sabina was a little paranoid seeming, like looking frequently out the front window, like she was like waiting for someone.
Weird.
Yeah. um, she also apparently offered them both cigarettes, but then quickly snatched them back and said that they might be poisoned. So that was odd. um, the next day, and Peter then left that evening because it wasn't his house, it was the friend.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but then so they're still there the next day. She's still at Glenn's house. When he's making something to eat, it's the evening, 7:40 p.m. Then he went outside to ask his neighbor Frank for some tea bags, which I'm like, aw, he likes tea.
Yeah.
Um, and oh, Frank had been out washing his car in the driveway, so he said sure, but he promised to bring them by after he was done. But however, before he could, just a few minutes later, Glenn staggered back out of his house, and he was moaning that she stabbed me.
Jesus.
Yeah, so he allegedly used his very last breath to ask Frank to take care of his dog, which
Oh,
breaks
that's
my
so
heart.
sad. Yeah.
I know, he just loved his dog. And then Frank called the emergency line, which was probably 999 or also 112 can be used in the UK. But by
Yeah.
that time, Sabina had fled on foot. She was gone by the time police got there on the scene. Um, she was spotted running by a passing driver named Joshua Grattage. And she was seen by him hitting herself periodically on the head with a hammer. Little
Ah, lovely.
similarity there.
Yeah.
You kept saying hammer, and I kept being like, oh my god, it's hammer time. Um, and then, so Joshua jumped out of his car and he tried to take the hammer from her, but she then took something out of her pocket and smashed it into his head.
Weird.
Cracked my neck. It was a roof tile, which was heavy enough to temporarily stun him.
Oh my god. How'd she have
I
that in
know.
her pocket?
Where did she pick that up?
Yeah,
How
that's
big is this
strange.
roof tile? Yeah, I know. I have questions. Um, ugh, it is sad though. This one's so crazy. So she ran to a road with a bridge called Heron Cross Bridge, and well, it sounds more like an overpass to me because she was able to there jump onto the road below the A50, whereupon she broke both her ankles and fractured her skull.
Oh my god.
but
Holy
somehow
shit.
survived.
Fuck.
Sorry, I had to take a drink. I know. She was arrested. Like the paramedics eventually arrived there that the driver Joshua had called, I guess. She was arrested on suspicion of murder while still in the University Hospital of North Staffordshire on the 9th of June. She was discharged 2 days later on September 11th and taken into custody. So they got her, and then Ursula, her sister, is still in the hospital recuperating also, but was able to leave later that month. But because she didn't do anything, she didn't punch the cop, she didn't do anything but run into traffic, so she didn't get charged with anything. She went to Sweden for a
Okay.
while. Yeah, and then she just like, which she possibly stopped to visit family in Sweden, and then she went back to the US where she had been living before this whole incident. So,
And her sister, Sabina's, she's the one that with the like family and husband and everything.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and she's the one that just killed a guy, unfortunately.
Wow.
And their brother actually spoke out later and said something about like they thought that they were being chased by maniacs. So,
Drugs.
yeah.
It's all I can think of is drugs.
It seems so much like some sort of psychotic drug episode, yeah. Um, but it's not really a spoiler to say like we're at the end here that they like Ursula was tested when she got to the hospital for the broken
Mm-hmm.
legs. Nothing was found in her system. And
Yeah.
Sabina was never apparently tested at the hospital, just like she wasn't apparently given a psych evaluation. So harder to
Yeah.
say. Yeah. But
Wow.
it's
Yeah, it's so weird.
so
Like,
bizarre.
never understood this one. All I can think of is like,
Yeah.
yeah, some sort of drug thing, especially with her giving them a cigarette and then like
Yeah.
taking them away and saying they could be poisoned. Like maybe they were. Maybe there's something
It
in there.
skews very like paranoid, almost paranoid schizophrenic to me. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's like if they had no history of mental illness, and I know they're like still living and everything, so I don't want to like super pry into now or what after, but I'm like, well, there had to have been some sort of conclusion to the mental health evaluation, you know what I mean? Like you would think that some
Cuz
sort of
how old were they when this was going on?
in their 30s.
Oh, okay.
They were born in 67. And so was 2008. So yeah, they were 67 to 2007 would be what? Third? No. They were almost 40 maybe?
Yeah,
I can't
okay. Yeah,
math
that'd
right
be
now.
past like well
Like
just like I
that?
guess like regular schizophrenia, I think, and like bipolar and stuff is normally around 25 or something.
Oh
Unless it's
yeah,
like
and like
drug induced.
yeah. It's just and that's the way that it presents in both twins seemingly at once. And that's why most people claim the very unexplained, in my opinion, shared psychosis or the folie à deux
Yeah.
explanation, which I have a little bit on, but like it's not really, there's not a lot known about it. So,
But I mean, if they say like people can kind of like if it's in your genes, you could kind of flip just like that, like in your psychotic break. It would make sense that twins would break at the same time if they're in this
I
like
feel
same
like if there was
situation
like,
together.
yeah, like I feel like there's got to be some sort of like trigger event that
Yeah.
would, how like trauma causes some mental illness like super directly, like the what do they call it now, not split personality but dissociative identity disorder. They will say that
Yeah.
you'll usually like have a younger self because that's when the trauma happened, and that's when you're like psyche breaks off or whatever. Like, it's just so, I don't know, I find it fascinating, but also very confusing, clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so they did have a trial for Sabina in 2009. It was delayed a little bit, so it took about a year. On the 2nd of September, she pled guilty to manslaughter with, quote, diminished responsibility.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they took definitely, the mental health into consideration.
Yeah, something was going on.
Oh, yeah. And I don't know how it works there, but they were able to, she just met every question with no comment at trial and basically didn't say anything.
Hmm.
And like both the prosecution and the defense were saying that she was insane at the time of the killing. So I guess they agreed on that. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if you have the video, you can't really say a sane person would probably be acting in that way.
Yes. Yeah, so you have evidence that they're very erratic and all that, but then, oh, it's so frustrating because you're like, well, the cops had them at that time too. Ugh. Which I have a little bit more on that. So they kind of say at trial, they try to imply that she, like, forgive my language, but caught the crazy from Ursula, her sister. Probably because Ursula wasn't charged with anything, so maybe they were like,
Yeah.
say it's her. Um, I don't know, but Nottingham Crown Court gave her 5 years to be served at Bronzefields Women's Prison. So, like,
Hmm.
the judge took all this into consideration. They were lenient, let's just
Yeah.
say. Yeah. Um, the detective superintendent Dave Garrett had this to say: "The reason for the two events may never be truly known or understood, but the taking of Glenn's life was a violent and senseless act."
Yeah.
And yeah, that can't be disagreed with. Also, Glenn's brother was notably very unhappy with the results of the trial and loudly questioned the whole legal system. Rightfully so.
Yeah, I mean, 5 years is very light, even like
Yeah, and
with diminished responsibility or whatever. Like, that seems very light.
I know. It's like manslaughter. I don't know. Yeah, it's like when they get to use like some sort of insanity defense. It's like doesn't feel great, but you also know that they needed help, and nothing said that they went into, okay, maybe one article said that they went into like a psych facility hospital versus an or that she went into a psych type facility versus a regular prison. So it's like
Hmm.
I don't even know what they did after.
Yeah.
Um but one more notable fact, and which is the second video clip on the the website link that I sent you,
Yeah.
um, was footage that was uploaded after the fact. Actually, on December 6th, 2012, this footage was anonymously uploaded to the web, showing a previously unseen clip from the traffic cops' film footage.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was like, why wasn't this shown with the original stuff?
It's just the stuff laying on the editing room floor.
Yeah. I don't know if it does load. This one's pretty short too, but I'll describe a bit what it is. If it was deliberately left out, I think it's pretty damning evidence of negligence on the police's part. But it was left out of the shows. Oh, I guess there was two shows: Traffic Cops and Madness in the Fast Lane.
Oh.
But yes, there's a clip, and it's on the website there that I get. Maybe we can put it in our whatever show notes website. But the two officers, one of whom was the one I mentioned that was helping to hold Sabine down,
Mm-hmm.
and his supervisor, they were talking about what to do with the twins, who were still behaving very erratically and dangerously, and this is at the side of the road at the time. And what is his name? Finlayson or whatever said something about, then this one goes over the bonnet of the car. Sorry, bonnet. But he's
Yeah.
like, yeah, he's telling his supervisor or whatever, he's explaining the situation, and then I believe it's the supervisor that answers and says something like, is she under arrest at the moment? And then he replies something like, well, it's 1:36 if she is. To which his boss replied, she needs to be, if nothing else, for going on the motorway and for her own safety. And so what they're talking about is a 136, which is apparently a, quote, clause within the Mental Health Act that means that police can hold a person on account of their mental health, as well as having to give the detainee a mental health assessment. Yet it
Hmm.
appears that they were never given the 136, nor were they assessed by a mental health professional when they initially got to the hospital or before she was released.
Yeah.
I think we might have something here too, like a 24-hour hold, psychiatric hold, something like that. But they talked about it and then it never happened.
At least they talked about it. Sounds like the hospital dropped the ball on that, not the cops, at least.
It could be. Yeah, I
Yeah.
have no idea like who has the upper hand, jurisdiction, responsibility to make sure that
Yeah.
like she was kept and seen to, I guess. Ugh,
Yeah,
it
she should have
just
been
sucks.
seen. Like,
Oh yeah. For that, I don't think there's no question. You're right. Like, but
yeah, they're running through traffic. Like,
it's so crazy.
even if you saw that as just being like suicidal, you could do like a mental health
Mm-hmm.
evaluation
That's right.
at the very
Yeah, what they call a
least.
suicide watch. You put them on or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could have at least talked to a professional on like that side of it. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
it really felt like they were like failed. Oh my God, it scared me a little bit. My dog scraped in the carpet. Okay. Um. Yeah. The judge agreed that she had a low culpability, went with the diminished responsibility defense,
Mhm.
I guess.
Yeah.
And she apparently served about I say 439 days before being released in 2011. Is that just over a
Okay.
year? So
Yeah,
long.
like a year and
Some.
what, 3 months?
Okay, yeah, because 356. Being released in 2011. Yeah, so she was released in 2011, and her whereabouts are now unknown. No drugs were ever found in either of their systems. I think I said
Mhm.
that. And that was all the details on their case. I just have a paragraph or two about the what they call folia de or shared delusional disorder is apparently a name it gets given now, even
Yeah.
though it's so in my mind like not even a real thing almost. It's like when they're like
No.
women had melancholia and you're like, well actually there's like depression and anxiety and all these like much
Yeah.
more nuanced things. Like it's not just this blanket, oh, mob mentality. You know what I mean? Like just can't just explain it like that.
Yeah. My favorite example is that the towns or whatever that were like people were basically dancing themselves to death, the dancing plague
Yeah,
they call
the
it.
dancing plagues are like the 1500s. It makes no
Yeah.
sense.
It was like, really? People
And they
like
can't
dance?
explain it really still.
Well, so what they've basically said is that most of the places that it occurred in, there was like the
The
right,
bread.
there was the right like climate and everything for like a certain fungus to have grown in like the wheat and everything like that that they were
Oh my god, that's
consuming.
what they say about the stupid fucking Salem witch trials too. They try and blame it on the goddamn bread mold that comes from the ergot or whatever. Yeah. I feel like they
Yeah.
blame everything on the goddamn bread mold.
Well,
It's not satisfying to me.
no. It is to
Eh,
me. Like, mold is extremely toxic and poisons very
okay, but then
easily,
like
so.
why would it only happen like so severely one time? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what's the catalyst that it was like, if like it was one batch of moldy bread there and then like one batch of moldy bread in Salem, and that made people, it's just, I don't know. For me, I'm like, what?
Well, it's more like
Seems,
a group of, like, a specific harvest or whatever that, like, happens at a harvest, and the people use that, and then when it's gone, it's gone, right?
yeah, I suppose one thing could get infected with the mold. It just, to me, it seems like such a catch-all, I guess, you know? Seems like too
Mm.
much of an easy answer, but it's just me. Um, so what they call folie à deux, they have a whatever medical, more scientific definition. So I'll try to explain it or give a quote here so I don't, just sound so biased. But it says that shared psychotic disorder, or folie à deux, is a rare disorder characterized by sharing a delusion among two or more people in a close relationship. The inducer, primary, who has a psychotic disorder with delusions, influences another non psychotic individual or more, induced, secondary, based on a delusional belief. It is commonly seen among two individuals, but in rare cases can include larger groups. For example, it can occur in a family and is called folie à famille.
Ooh.
Madness of the family. Sounds much better in French, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, a lot better.
Yeah. um. Oh, I think this last name might be French too, so I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Jules Ballager was the first to report this condition in 1860. During the 19th century, psychiatrists in Europe suggested different names. In France, it has been called folie communiquée, communicated psychosis, by Ballager. In German psychiatry, it was named, oh God, I didn't look up the German. In die Irrsin. At me, Ressa. I know that's wrong. I'm sorry. My sister will come at me. Don't worry. No. I didn't look up the correct pronunciation, but I love German. I'm sorry. And that was by Lemon and Scharfeter. That's a fun last name. And I just found a little bit of this interesting. In 1877, Lasig and Falret coined the term folie à deux. The French word folie à deux means madness shared by two. In the early 1940s, Gralnick, in his review of 103 cases of folie à deux, described four types of this disorder. He defined it as a psychiatric entity characterized by the transfer of delusions from one person to one or several others who have a close association with the primarily affected person. But I had never heard of the four types, so the
Yeah.
four types are as follows: folie imposée, imposed psychosis, described by Lasig and Falret in 1877. The delusions are transferred from an individual with psychosis to an individual without psychosis in an intimate relationship. The
Okay.
delusions in the induced individual soon disappear once the two are separated. So you can get out of that one, maybe.
Yeah, I feel like that's most often what they do, and, like, separate it and the people get better.
Yeah.
And, like, all the cases I've
Yeah.
heard, that's what's happened.
Like, you're in a cult, you're being brainwashed, but you get away from them, and then you're like, you start to come back to yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and then it says folie simultaneous psychosis, described by Regis in 1880. Both partners share the psychosis simultaneously. They both have risk factors through long social interactions that predispose them to develop this condition. There are reports of sharing genetic risk factors among siblings.
What
That
about
maybe,
twins?
yeah, that maybe is the most applicable then.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie, I skim read the four types earlier, so I was just as surprised as you. Oh, and then this one they mentioned, folie communicated psychosis, described by Mirandin de Montiel in 1881. This type is similar to folie imposée, whatever. However, the delusion in the secondary partner occurs after a long period of resistance. Okay. Also, the secondary partner will maintain the delusion even after the separation from their partner. Okay, so it's not just simultaneously. It's like they're
It's like,
fully brainwashed, so even after they're
yeah,
gone.
like a longer.
The other one. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
They're more indoctrinated.
Yeah.
And then finally, folie induite? Induite? Induite, maybe. Induced psychosis, described by Lemon in 1885. In this type, new delusions are assumed by an individual with psychosis who is being influenced by another individual with psychosis. I mean, that sounds kind of like most of them, but okay.
Yeah. Sure.
And yeah. And on that bland note, that is my case.
Wow. I
Oh my
remembered
god.
them running through traffic. I did not remember them murdering somebody. And
Yeah. And honestly, yeah,
yeah.
you could read like 15 synopses of the case and you get kind of the same details over and over again. So I had to try and
Yeah.
kind of hunt for anything else, but I tried, I try to get
No.
like the motive, behind things, and I try to understand, but it's hard.
Yeah. Well, if
Yeah.
anybody's got any updates or knows things, tell us. Send us a thing.
Yeah, I
Let us
mean,
know.
they seem to be doing okay now. From
I'm
uh,
sure they've probably changed their names and like
well, I had one note about one of them, the one that lives in the US now, Ursula. She like joined a church in her home state or something, but yeah, I think that they're doing a little bit better.
I hope
But I
they
didn't
are.
yeah, I didn't want to
Like,
stalk them too bad, I guess.
yeah. Yeah, I hope they're
Yeah.
happier and healthier cuz
Oh,
yeah, it's
totally.
scary for them and other people what happened.
Yeah, and it's not like your guys were like, it seemed like they were used to doing that. They were in the habit of doing that, your guys. Whereas
Yeah.
these guys
Oh
had
yeah,
like
they were
more of
in
a
and out of
snap.
prison like
Yeah.
yeah, it was their
Yeah.
whole lives. Yeah.
My sister made me do it. My brother made me do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this one it was like my brother murdered somebody too? I didn't even know. I thought it was just me. Like,
Oh,
oh,
ha ha ha, how cute. Yeah.
yeah, guess it runs in the family.
Hey, bud, what did you do? Oh, cool. No, I don't know. Oh,
Right?
God.
Oh,
I've never bonded
wow.
with my siblings over that. Thank God.
Yeah, I
Over
would
true
not
crime in general, sure.
I would not support murder.
We are anti murder. Hot take.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Oh my God. Next time, I forgot what we were doing because the next notes we were going to work on was for
The
Patreon.
Patreon, yeah, what even is the next regular episode? I don't
It's
even know.
hostage crimes.
Hostage crimes.
Yeah. That
I I don't know what my case is gonna be yet.
oh
I
me either. It's going to be about the Bruce Willis movie Hostage. Wait, is that what it was called? I can't remember now. He did one where he's like
actually
a negotiator.
oh yeah. Yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I've seen too many hostage movies, bank robbery movies, and too many Netflix documentaries about like heists and hostage situations, so.
I was gonna say, yeah, it is one of those where like the main ones will probably have been covered at least
Yeah.
once or twice before. You can't really avoid that, but eh, it's not like we're doing another Ted Bundy up. You know what I mean? Like we're not doing something everyone's done 10,000 times over.
Yeah. Yeah.
We could do a
Should
little
be fun.
Stockholm syndrome or whatever. That's
Yeah,
actually
sometimes there's
the
those.
yeah, the original case where people coined the term Stockholm syndrome with the bank, the whole bank
Mm-hmm.
hostage is it's actually pretty interesting.
I don't know
But
if I've looked into that one too much.
mm.
I can't hear like bank heist without thinking about Money Heist from Netflix, and I just
Oh
and then
yeah, yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
like I in every movie
You
I'm
got me
always
into
rooting
that.
for the hostage like takers, and then I'm just like, oh, and then in Money Heist they go one step further and then they offer the bank employees or like if you got because instead of robbing the bank, what they're doing is they're taking the basically the rolls of money that haven't been printed yet and they're using those to print their own money. So they're not taking any
Oh
money from the bank, they're
yeah.
using the unprinted
They're
bills to print their
making
own money.
counterfeit. Yeah.
Well, yeah, basically.
Okay. Very
And then
sophisticated counterfeit, I
yeah,
guess.
like using the bank's own machinery, but then
Photocopy.
they offer the employees of the bank like money if they help them. Or like we will give you a certain
Mm.
percentage of what we
That's
leave
smart
with
though.
like 6
Yeah.
months from now and stuff if you help us like cuz they're in the bank for is it like 4 or 5 days or something like they're in there for a long time so like if you help us over these
Okay.
4 or 5 days like we will send you a whole bunch of money in 6 months and it's
I mean,
pretty
that's not
awesome.
totally dissimilar to what I remember from the actual Stockholm bank robbing incident. But yeah,
Yeah,
that was a different one because I love
I love that
heist
show.
movies and you told me about it and I don't remember if I really like got into that show or not. I remember
I
watching a
don't
few
think so.
episodes. Yeah, and I was like, okay, some of them are in love with each other. There's drama going on, and then like I just don't remember if I ever finished it. Yeah.
I don't think so.
I probably
It's
would have told
good.
you, yeah.
I love it. I
Okay,
love
well
it so
damn, maybe I'll
much.
give it another try.
Do it. There's what, 5 parts now? And then there's
Oh.
I haven't watched the like Korean spin-off thing that they did that's basically the same thing but in Korea. It's like
Well, with the
yeah.
whole popularity of Squid Game, I'm not surprised if they gave that another
I
shot.
think I watched the trailer and I was like, "Oh, it's not as like cool." Um I don't know. I just like didn't find it like as attention grabbing as it was like the characters and like
Yeah.
everything was and I don't know, in Spanish. And I love that
Oh,
professor. I love him.
professor. Oh, I don't remember
Yeah,
right
the one
now.
that plans
He's a hottie.
everything. I think so. But I
In
just
the Money Heist show?
yeah,
Oh, okay, yeah, it's been so long. It's been so long.
it's been years.
It's been 84 years. Well,
Oh.
well, we're glad to have you guys back since 84 years because we dropped our new episode today and
Mhm.
my brother was like, "Yay, new episode" on his review. And I was like, "Yeah." Anyway, we love you all. Thank you for listening and we'll see you next week.
Yes, thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye-bye.
This has been Castles and Cryptids. You can listen to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Anchor, Breaker, Pocket Cast, and our YouTube channel. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Reddit. On our website, you can listen to all of our episodes as well as view pictures for each of our segments. Check out our Patreon page to view all of our tiers and become a Patreon supporter today to unlock monthly bonus episodes and behind-the-scenes content. We are working on an Ask Us Anything. You can submit questions by social media or by email at castlesandcryptids@gmail.com. Do you have a spooky ghost story, a creepy cryptid sighting, or a thrilling true crime tale you would like to share and have us include in a future episode? Send us your listener story by social media or by email. Please include the name that you would like mentioned. Our music is by Kobia Fair. Our logo and artwork is by Antonio Garcia. Thanks for listening.